taking care that laws be unfaithfully violated. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe and let's talk about this. So I want to approach today from a macro perspective, a large perspective of what is happening constitutionally in our country. And then I want to talk about a couple of other things that came to note to me right as I was getting ready to talk about today's topic. So first, I want to talk to you about my title. Why did I write that? Well, Constitution says that the President of the United States must take care that the laws are faithfully executed. And I'm paraphrasing that part. That's the President's main job, to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Presidents don't have the power to refuse to execute the laws passed by Congress. And that is exactly what Donald is doing now. He's not enforcing a whole bunch of laws, and he has put on hold congressionally appropriated money for a number of governmental agencies. The chaos in the federal workforce and everything from U.S. aid funding to Ukraine assistance to drastic cuts to the education and Veterans Affairs departments are all a consequence of this breach in separation of powers principle. This violates the separation of powers principle embedded in our Constitution. Under Article 1, the first article of our Constitution, Congress makes the laws. Congress authorizes spending. Congress has the spending power. And when Congress authorizes spending and Congress creates departments and agencies and laws through which the president may execute his duties to faithfully execute the laws, it is POTUS has no authority to make the laws. Congress makes the laws, Congress authorizes spending, and it is the job of the president to faithfully execute those laws. By the way, executive orders are not laws. They are policy positions that are adopted as law, but without congressional action, they are not laws. They operate in this twilight zone until they are reviewed by the court or they are either codified or rejected by Congress. So that power, POTUS does not have the authority to make laws or stop spending in an area that Congress has appropriated money for. But in this situation that we have, Congress is also compromised by a MAGA majority at this time. So we're not seeing Congress suing to assert itself and its powers. And Donald is freely encroaching upon Article 1 powers. Donald Trump doesn't have, under Article 2, the power to stop enforcing the laws or stop dispersing the money that has been congressionally appropriated. He just doesn't have the power to do so under Article 2. And him hindering Congress's mandates through law, whether it be funding or how departments are run, then he is encroaching upon those areas that Congress has the power to legislate and spend. So Congress isn't doing anything about it because of the MAGA majority. But fired federal employees are pushing back, and so are congressional Democrats in Amici briefs, and they are telling the judiciary of this dire place that Congress is in, and because of that, how the principle of separation of powers is at risk. Ultimately, these questions are going to go to the Supreme Court, and the court will have the last say about the separation of powers and about Donald Trump dispersing the money that has been appropriated. Mind you, I haven't heard anything yet about the $2 billion that the Supreme Court ordered Donald Trump to release after District Court Judge Ali made the ruling that it should be dispersed by this past Monday. But right after that, or was it right before that, Marco Rubio announced that U.S. aid would be cutting 83% of the programs. But this is money, about $2 billion, that has been appropriated by Congress to be given to people for work already done. So I'm not hearing anything in the news about it, what's happening with that money. So it would be great if you know what's happening, if you would leave a link or let me know in the comment box, that would be great. And then we go to the question of what happens if Donald Trump decides not to comply with the order of the Supreme Court. And you will not believe me and you'll think it's hyperbole, but I think about that almost once a day. At least once a day, not almost. And it gives me pause. Is how would we then rein the president in? If he just says he won't follow the order, what happens? If he says he won't comply with the mandates of Congress and he will rule just through his executive orders, and I do mean it when I say a rule, what will happen? I mean, the only faith that I can have now is in what my constitutional law professor said, Professor Pragowski, that the Supreme Court can do whatever it wants. So can the Supreme Court direct the Marshal Service directly, even if Donald Trump says don't follow the Supreme Court's order? Can the Supreme Court tell Congress to enforce its order by dispersing the money through congressional resources? Or do we have to ally with foreign countries to be able to disperse the aid, say for Ukraine or for other countries to which we provide aid through U.S. aid? It'll be drastically reduced, but there will still be need for that to happen. So what is the Supreme Court going to do when we get to that point? Because that point is something I see on the horizon, and I keep wondering what it is and where we're going to go with it. Is it how far it is, and is it coming in our direction? It worries me, and it worries any legal scholar. And George Conway started with that. Now, I also talked about the possibility of can SCOTUS ask states to enforce the order of the Supreme Court if the president chooses not to enforce it, despite the fact that it is the president's job to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and a ruling by the Supreme Court is the law of the land, unless Congress legislates against it. So, what will the Supreme Court do? And with that, I'd like to segue into the second topic. It's very interesting. I was listening to a Resolute Square podcast with Rick Wilson, and his guest was journalist and author Alex Eisenstadt. And one of the things that he said was Elon can do whatever he wants. And that resonated, that hit a chord with me. That sent me back to my professor saying the Supreme Court can do whatever it wants. So to be able to equate in my mind that Elon Musk is so powerful that he can do whatever he wants is quite a big sort of realization, and it's the truth in terms of how he is part of Donald's administration now. But before I go forward, I have a question. If you have an answer to this, please put it in the comment box. If Elon is such a genius, and so much money is tied to the market with Tesla, and a lot of his money is tied with Tesla, why would he create an environment that would collapse the economy upon which his wealth is built? Somebody answer me that question. Because every day Tesla stocks go down, so does his net worth. When people cancel contracts with SpaceX, like the billionaire from Mexico, Carlos Sim, I believe, that hurts SpaceX, that hurts Elon Musk's value. So I don't think SpaceX is public though. And, Twitter X is losing money. It's not really making any money. So Elon bases a lot of weight on his stocks of Tesla. So why is he doing this to sort of destroy the markets? I mean, I understand why he's with Donald, because he wants to get our data and he wants to get reprieves from all of the departments of the government that were either investigating or prosecuting him. He's taking care of all of that. But he still keeps paying Donald. It keeps paying Donald, and he operates as sort of a buffer on Donald's ratings. Like Elon Musk is not popular at all. Neither is Doge's actions. But Donald Trump's ratings are relatively higher. So he's operating as sort of like a Kevlar for Donald Trump by taking the heat for doing illegal things through Doge and paying Donald Trump huge sums of money to his political committees and all of that. And, it kind of makes me wonder, where is he going with this? Is he really going to stick around for a while because he wants to, because he wants to keep disrupting? I don't see the logic of disrupting the markets for Elon Musk, but maybe he just wants to keep on getting government subsidies and more of them for SpaceX and for his ventures. And to be able to have the President of the United States at his beck and call. And that's the only thing I can think of. And that's a huge, huge, huge amount of power. And Donald Trump is in a declining mental state, who gets triggered quickly and goes off on world leaders. And Elon Musk can just exploit that. Let Tesla stock fall for a little while. So what if he becomes the third richest man in the world or the second richest man in the world instead of the first richest man in the world? So I want to sort of skip from that and talk to you about something a little bit separate. A news came around that, a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, that Donald Trump was sending Venezuelan immigrants to Guantanamo Bay. And then news came out that he took those immigrants and they were sent back to Venezuela. And then whoever was in Guantanamo Bay have been brought back to the United States. And then again, I heard like today or yesterday that they are sending people to Guantanamo Bay. And then they're bringing them back again. I mean, this is efficiency? You think this is what efficiency looks like? How many millions of dollars are being spent to transport undocumented migrants back and forth from Guantanamo Bay? And what's the purpose of it? And then I got news, and I heard on the news that there was a family that was going to the hospital and they were caught and deported because the parents were undocumented, but the child was born in the United States. And this child was going to see the doctor for an emergency appointment for brain cancer. And they deported this family. They didn't separate the child from the parents. They just deported them all together while they were on their way to an emergency appointment for this child's brain cancer. So, I mean, it's not as visually striking as tearing children away from their parents and, that children crying at the border. It's not. But it's equally as devious, equally as evil, equally as illegal in the case of deporting an American citizen while they are in dire need, instead of getting them to the place that could help their lives. That creates a cause of action against the United States for wrongful death by these undocumented people. But the fact that they're undocumented doesn't change the fact that this child is a citizen, because they have lived in the United States, they've paid taxes in the United States, they were taking this child to a hospital or an appointment with a doctor in the United States. So they were under the jurisdiction of the United States, because clearly you had the power to take them out of the United States where they were living. And you don't have the power to remove a citizen of the United States, no matter what the status of the parents. Look at each circumstance on its own. This sort of hatchet job with immigration is causing so much tension, so much trauma, so much strife. And it's happening in evil ways, in ways that it shouldn't happen. And we're seeing Mr. Khalil's case from Columbia University in New York. He has been shipped to Louisiana. I don't know if he's been brought back to New York or not. And there's no criminal charges against him. He's a green card holder. He was exercising his First Amendment right to peaceably protest. I don't know what he was saying, and whatever he was saying was perhaps vile and pro-Hamas. But that doesn't make him a terrorist. He has the right to speak that, and we have the right to admonish it. But unless he breaks a law, he must be freed. And he is now as a lawyer, and they're going to see what's going to happen. He's a green card holder. So we are in this dystopia where Donald Trump is doing whatever he wants, and Congress isn't saying anything, and the cases are going up to the Supreme Court while these people suffer, while the child with brain cancer doesn't get the treatment that they need, while the aid is still frozen on HIV prevention and food for starving children in drought-ridden nations. These basic things, we don't know where we are. And I wanted to talk about them to you today and remind you that it is our duty to talk about these things and really be outraged by where we are as a country today. If you are not outraged by it, you either are not paying attention or, you don't care, which I think is even more dangerous than you're not paying attention. And that's very sad for me because there's about 30% of people who don't care what happens in the Ukraine-Russia war. 50-some% think that they're pro-Ukraine, like 4% like Russia, are sympathizers of Russia, but 30% didn't care, which was a huge, wow. Apathy is apathy what is killing democracy? That is quite a selfish way and an inert way for the greatest civilization on earth to go. 250 years of democracy because we got apathetic, we became ambivalent. That's really a bad way to go. With that said, please like and subscribe, please share, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care of yourselves.